Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanurandana Jasodanandana Brajajanurandana Jamuna Tiravana Jadi Jamuna Tiravana Jadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Harivedacharya Astatarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Continuing, Uddhava Gita, Canto 11, Chapter 8, texts 34 through 36. Center stage is Pingala, a prostitute who's in the process of becoming very devoted to the personality of Godhead and very detached from her prior profession. In this section, both today and tomorrow, we're going to hear something further about one of these mysteries of this passage. That is, how did Pingala get to the stage that she got to? Because we heard the narration, she was disappointed. She was at her doorstep waiting for a customer, prostitute waiting for a customer. No one came until midnight. And so she went through some changes and detached from the disgusting profession and quickly attached to the personality of Godhead. So, how did that happen? And we're going to hear a few things about how that happened. That is to say, not just commentary on these verses, but reference to what's going on with Pingala in other places, Jiva Goswami's writings in particular, the Sandarbhas in particular. And how does Bhakti begin? We're going to hear some interesting descriptions I'll mention two of them, and you'll hear it in detail. One of them is Muchukunda. You know the story of Muchukunda. And when he sees Krishna, he doesn't recognize Krishna right away. And then when Krishna discloses his identity, Muchukunda says some very important things. And we're going to hear. He says things in reverse order. That is to say, when one becomes detached, then one may be eligible to come in contact with the spiritual master. And we're going to hear that's a literary ornament, where actually it's the reverse order, where by association one can become detached. But he's so enthusiastic seeing the Supreme Lord. It's a literary ornament that he puts things in reverse order. The detachment, then the association of the Lord's devotee. So then, with that in mind, how did Pingala get detachment? And so the relationship between Pingala and Dattatreya, because Dattatreya is the one that's narrating all this, or the Avaduta Brahmana is narrating this to King Yadu. So we're going to hear different things. One suggestion is, one commentary says, Dattatreya happened to take rest in her yard one evening, and that was it. Navamatra Sadhu Sangha. Or another option is, there's a principle. When we find that there's this sudden awakening, as is happening with Pingala, we can understand, if it's not explicitly said, who was the sadhu that helped that person suddenly transition from attachment to bhakti. It's a necessity in this life or some previous life. We'll cover it. We'll read it twice when we get there, but it's from our Acharya's commentary. It's to help us understand. All this is to help us understand. How did Pingala become detached from her sinful life and attached to the personality of Godhead? Association is necessary. Now, there's something from her side too. Besides just association, people may get association of sadhus and stay stuck. But of necessity is sadhu sangha. So, let us continue, starting with text 34. And we're hearing in text 34 that she was a resident of the city of Videha. What do we know about the city of Videha? The city of Videha is the capital of King Janak. It doesn't say when this event took place. It's prior to Krishna's Leela, because Krishna's narrating it. So it's sometime historically prior. So it doesn't give the chronology, but it gives the location. So certainly in this city of Videha, I alone am completely foolish. I neglected the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who awards us everything, even our original spiritual form. And instead, I desire to enjoy sense gratification with many men. Bhaktisiddhanta's translation is interesting. I rejected Sri Hari, who awards self-realization and our original spiritual form to enjoy sense gratification with many men. There is certainly no other woman in this city of Videha who is as foolish as myself. Bhaktisiddhanta's purport. There's no BBT purport. The Supreme Lord is the personification of all transcendental mellows. There is nothing temporary or abominable in him. If one desires to serve the Lord, one should give up the aspiration to be the enjoyer of the objects of the senses. To serve the temporary objects of this material world is certainly foolishness. And Vishwanath commentary, Pingala thought, this is Bhaktisiddhanta summarizing, I am so unchaste that I desired the association of many useless men rather than Lord Achyuta, who gives himself to his dear devotees. Now here's a long section. It's from Bhakti Sandarbha, and that's where we're going to get how does bhakti begin. Bhakti Sandarbha 179 begins. To establish bhakti in another way, another section commences. In order to show how the form of akinchana bhakti is the rarest form, the rarest result, the Lord explains the cause of bhakti manifesting. Paragraph. So now it comes Muchakunda's verse. So this whole section is Muchakunda's verse. Quote, this is 10:51-53. When the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there awakens in him devotion unto you, who take shelter of your devotees and are independent of higher and lower beings. Unquote. Paragraph. When the wandering jiva becomes free of material life, then he attains association of devotees. Of course, the opposite should be said. When a jiva attains devotee association, material life ends. However, it is stated as above to express the quickness of ending material life after association, to express the necessity of association, and the cause of material life ending. The quickness is expressed when the Lord says to Nalakuvara and Manigriva, Canto 10, Chapter 10, quote, when one is face to face with the sun, there is no longer darkness for one's eyes. Similarly, when one is face to face with a merciful devotee who is fully peaceful and surrendered to the Lord, one will no longer be subject to material bondage. That's the quickness of bhakti as an example. Paragraph. There is the ornament of ati shayokti, of the fourth type in the above verse. The fourth type of ati shayokti expresses quickness by placing the effect before the cause. Then there's a long Sanskrit explanation of use of words in Muchakunda's verse. The reason is then given. When or yarhi, there is association, he concentrates on you. The Lord concentrates on the person who is receiving the association. This means that knowledge of the Lord, which produces direct meeting with him, manifests at the end of eternal absence, samsarga bhava, of the eternally existing knowledge of the Lord caused by the jiva's aversion. Thus it is said by Vidura, 353 Bhagavatam. In order to give mercy to the suffering people engaged in sin, who are under the control of karma and ignorant of Krishna, the auspicious devotees of the Lord move in this world. So, association of devotees who have the mission of helping people who are caught up in forgetfulness and sinful life and so forth. They're the agents or the instruments of Krishna that Krishna sends to give somebody some special opportunity to become free from their illusion. Paragraph. Because of being covered by ancient karmas, the jiva is averse to the Lord. He is devoid of Bhagavad Dharma. When there is association, then, without delay, the person concentrates on you. This is all discussing the expediency or the quickness of how bhakti acts. The cause of concentrating on the Lord is given. You appear whenever the devotees gather. Thus it is said in Itihasa Samuchaya. I don't know where that is, and it's going to come up again tomorrow. Itihasa Samuchaya. Quote, O king, when the devotee is devoid of material attachment, then Vishnu approaches the devotee without doubt. So the sequence is devotee association, detachment, Vishnu approaches that devotee. And the Lord does not appear to the non-devotees, but by association with the devotee, they can attain the Lord. Pingala, because of association, was able to give up material life. The commentary says, quote, because of association, she was able to give up material life. And apparently that's Sridhar Swami's commentary because it comes up later. Then a standalone paragraph. Where there is no visible association and bhakti develops, it must be inferred that devotee association has occurred in a previous life or indirectly in this life. However, there was no development of bhakti in Nalakuvara or the Devatas, though they saw Narada. The following should be considered. If someone has committed offense, he will not respect the devotees, and he will see them as persons with ordinary punya. To remove that fault, the devotees, through association, must give mercy, thus causing the person to develop favorable attitude to the Lord. If a person has no offenses, by association he will see the devotee as exalted. Semicolon. Though his mind is not attentive to the great devotees, by association he can develop bhakti. Bhagavatam 3:544. The Devatas speak of persons with offense. O Supreme Lord, O most praiseworthy, those whose inner minds are stolen far away by the material senses do not see the devotees who have reached success by the wealth of remembering and glorifying your pastimes. Paragraph. Those who are related to the wealth of beauty at your feet, the devotees, do not see with eyes of mercy the materialistic people whose inner minds are averse to the Lord. because of senses and actions of offense. Asat vrittibihi. In this verse, we're still the demigods looking at the non-devotees, 3:544. In this verse, normal material activities would not produce aversion to the Lord. Previously, they had the mercy of the devotees. Other types of persons who have not done offensive actions are given mercy, as mentioned already, 3:5.3. If one does not have offenses, but is not inclined to the Lord, just by association, one can develop bhakti. So now we're hearing another factor. So there's disconnected persons, association with the devotees, detachment from worldliness, the Lord appears, and now we're finding a further qualifier. If there's those disconnected, there's two categories, those that have been offensive, those have not been offensive to the Lord. Now, in one sense, turning away from the Lord, that's a kind of an offense, but it's material existence. So, not offending the devotees is important, is the message here. When mercy of great devotees is freely given to persons who have committed offenses, they also can concentrate on the Lord. Otherwise, they cannot do so. That is the case of Nalu Kuvara, who obtained Narada's mercy, and the ordinary devatas. Similarly, Bharata gave mercy to the offender, Rahugana. That's further qualifier. Offensive persons getting special mercy from qualified devotee can overcome their anarthas and fix their mind on the Lord. The story of Upadichara Vasu is told in Vishnu Dharma. Quote, with the help of the devatas, he killed the demons and entered Patala to meditate on the Lord. The demons came to find an opportunity to surround and kill him. Because of his power, they remained standing with their weapons raised. Their attempt defeated, they taught him the path of the Pashandas on instructions from Indra. However, by his mercy, the demons became devotees of the Lord. I don't know this whole story. Upadichara Vasu. Continuing from Vishnu Dharma. If all the sins accumulated from many births in the world are not destroyed in a person, he cannot become a devotee of Govinda. Unquote. Vishnu Dharma. And here's Prahlad to Lord Nrsimhadev, Canto 7, Chapter 9. O Lord, generally the sages, desiring their own liberation, practice silence and live alone, not interested in others' welfare. I do not desire liberation all alone, rejecting the suffering people. I do not see any shelter other than you for those wandering blindly in this world. Paragraph. Prahlad was merciful to all people in the material world. Why did they all not become liberated? Because there are innumerable numbers of jivas. All are not liberated. By Prahlad's mercy, all those whom he had seen or heard of, or whom he could think of, were liberated. Attain refers to them. But others were made successful by Nrsimhadev's mercy through chanting and remembering alone. And again, this is Canto 7, Chapter 10, Pralad to Nrsingadev. The person who always remembers your activities and my activities, and who chants the prayers you have offered to please me. This is the Lord to Pralad. The person who always remembers your activities and my activities, and who chants the prayers you have offered to please me, becomes free from the bondage of karma in due course of time. So, Bhagavad Dharma process. That's, again, its association with Pralad through prayers. He who glorifies you, Pralad, what to speak of persons whom you remember with mercy, become free of karma. Therefore, it was correctly said, this is now back to Muchukunda, it was correctly said that when the jiva ends material life, he associates with devotees. And gives the Sanskrit. So, pertinent to the Uddhava Gita narration, we are to understand from Jiva Goswami's commentary here, Bhakti Sandarbha commentary, that Pingala had at some point in time association, and then there's all these sequences of association, not to materialistic people, association to not offensive people, association even to offensive people. So we can certainly understand her. Pingala's life was sinful, but not offensive. Not offensive. So, Muchukunda, his words, what's the eligibility to get association? Well, one can look at it that one's sinful activities have been eradicated, and then you can be eligible for association, or flip it around. That's expressed in enthusiasm. Through association, one can become detached from material enjoyment. But if somehow or other, like, this discussion about Pralad was thinking of seeing and remembering certain number of living entities, and by that well-wishing of Pralad, living entities became benefited spiritually, thus association, and thus free from material affinity. And then other living entities, according to Lord Nrsingadev, who just remember you and meditate upon your prayers, then they then also become eligible for direct devotee association. So it can be remote. And then direct. I'll just read the last little paragraph. He who glorifies you, Pralad, what to speak of persons whom you remember with mercy, become free from karma. Therefore, it was correctly said that when the jiva ends material life, he associates with devotees, which Muchukunda speaks to the Lord. Now, there's another section. It's kind of long. Now, we've been reading from Anuchhed 179. Here's another section from Bhakti Sandarbha, Anuchhed 179. And I think it's the same section. It's just a different, the same section. It's just a different translation. Maybe I'll skip that. So that was text 34. Should I read it again, or go on to the next verse? It's a few minutes after 8. Huh? Read it again? Okay, different translation. Same section. Because it is a little complicated. It meanders a little bit. Now in another section, another aspect of devotional service will be considered. How does one attain pure devotional service? Which is very rare and difficult to attain, and which brings a result that is also rare and difficult to attain, and which brings, we read it. Now we will consider the cause that brings devotional service into existence. So then there's this reference to Mushikunda's words, 10:51-53. O my Lord, O infallible Supreme Person, when a person wandering throughout the universes becomes eligible for liberation from material existence, he gets an opportunity to associate with devotees. When he associates with devotees, his attraction for you is awakened. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal of the Supreme devotees, and the Lord of the universe. This is the meaning of this verse. So paraphrasing, when a person wandering throughout the universes becomes eligible for liberation from material existence, that is to say, when his time for attaining liberation has come, he gets an opportunity to associate with devotees. When he associates with devotees, he attains liberation from material existence, unquote. This means that association with devotees is the swift and unstoppable way to attain liberation. This statement is an example of the fourth variety of nama lankara, or literary ornament, called ati shayokti, or hyperbole, a variety that is described in the following words. These pages aren't numbered. Quote, when something is said to very quickly bring a certain result, that is the fourth kind of hyperbole, which is called poor vokti. An example of this kind of poor vokti hyperbole is seen in the following words spoken by the Supreme Personality Godhead to Nalakuvara and Manigriva, Bhagavatam 10:10-41. Quote, when one is face to face with the sun, there is no longer darkness for one's eyes. Similarly, when one is face to face with a sadhu, a devotee, who is fully determined and surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one will no longer be subject to material bondage. The reason for this is given in Bhagavatam, this Mushikunda verse. O Lord, when a person associates with devotees, his attraction for you is awakened. That's this swift action. When there is no longer any reason for the continued existence of the misconceptions that make one averse to the Lord, these misconceptions come to an end. And then the actual truth, which makes one fall in love with the Lord, is manifested. This is described by Sri Vidura in the following words. 3.5.3 Bhagavatam. Oh, my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. This is described in the following words of the Itihasa Samuchaya. Again, same reference. O King, Lord, this is the quote. O King, Lord Krishna personally comes to the places where his devotees who are free from material passion and other vices congregate. Of this there is no doubt. Next, the word sat gatau thus refers to association with devotees. As has already been explained, in this way, ordinary people can attain devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pingala glorifies association with devotees in these words. Bhagavatam 10.8.34. So this is her glorifying association with devotees. From our verse just now, 34. Certainly in this city of Videha, I alone am completely foolish. I neglected the Supreme Personality of Godhead who awards us everything, even our original spiritual form, and instead I desire to enjoy sense gratification with many men. Sridhar Swami comments, quote, here Pingala says, quote, even though I had the association of the saintly devotees of Videha, still I remained a complete fool. Now that's very specific, not just some point in time somewhere, some association, but at least in Sridhar Swami's rendering of this verse, she had association of saintly persons somehow in Videha. And although she had that association, she didn't act on it, but that association had its effect. Its effect was she was able to give up material attachment. Next. If a person is seen to be eager to serve the Lord, but it is not seen that he had association with devotees, it should be understood that at some time in this life or a previous life, he did have association with a saintly devotee in the disciplic succession. It may be said that just as Nalakuvara and others had the opportunity to see Narada Muni, so the great demigods also had the opportunity to see him, but still did not attain the same result that Nalakuvara attained. This happens because of offenses to a great devotee. When one thinks a great devotee is merely an ordinary pious person, one commits an offense. To become free from that offense, one should understand the exalted status of that devotee, and then one should sincerely honor and serve him. The demigods explain all this in the following words. Bhagavatam 3.5.45. Quote, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, offensive persons whose internal vision has been affected by external materialistic activities, cannot see your lotus feet, but they are seen by your pure devotees, whose one and only aim is to transcendentally enjoy your activities. The verse explains that many persons do not see the Lord's lotus feet. Who are those persons? The verse says that they are, quote, offensive persons whose internal vision has been too affected by external materialistic activities. The word asat vritti here does not refer to ordinary materialistic activities, for great devotees are merciful to ordinary materialists, as was described in the Bhagavatam by Vidura 3.5.3. The great souls give their mercy to they who do not commit offenses. So this is a nice translation. Who gets mercy? people that may be materially attached or sinful, or having some worldly problem is one thing, and mercy especially goes to those. But the offensive people, so who's not offensive, but offensive people don't get the same. The great souls give their mercy to they who do not commit offenses. Simply by association of these great souls, these materialistic persons also become saintly devotees. The great souls, because they are independent in their activities, may also give their mercy to offenders and transform them also into devotees, but this does not occur without the great soul's mercy. Now the Kuvara and ordinary demigods are examples of this, because they were offensive to Narada, not just sinful. Examples of this are seen in the mercy of Sri Bharata to King Rahugana, and in the activities of Uparichara Vasu, as described in the Vishnu Dharma Purana. After killing many demons to help the demigods, Uparichara Vasu renounced the world and went to Patalaloka in order to meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the demons approached the renounced Vasu and tried to kill him with their weapons, but their weapons all suddenly became completely useless and ineffective. By the instructions of Shukracharya, the demons could understand that they had committed a great offense. Then, by Uparichara Vasu's mercy, they all became great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vishnu Dharma Purana, it is said, quote, after many births in the mature world, they could not destroy the great multitude of their sins. However, the moment they attained love for Lord Govinda, their sins at once ceased to exist. Prahlad to Lord Nrsingadev, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. There, I wish to bring, it should be therefore, I think. There, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. In this way, it is seen that Sri Prahlad has given his mercy to every single conditioned soul. How is it then that they have not all attained liberation? To this question, I reply, this is Jiva Goswami, because the individual spirit souls are unlimited in number, they cannot all be understood by the mind and heart. As many as were seen or heard by Prahlad, or as many could be understood within his mind, all attained liberation by his mercy. That is the meaning of this verse. Other persons may hear and remember the glories of Sri Prahlad, and in this way Lord Nrsingadev himself will be merciful to them. Lord Nrsingadev himself affirms this in these words, 7:10:14. One who always remembers your activities and my activities also, and who chants the prayers you have offered, becomes free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. And final sentence, and we're done. Here Lord Nrsingadev means, quote, they who chant your glories will become liberated. Certainly then will they whom you remember and feel compassion for will also become liberated. This is the sentiment of the devotees, a sentiment described in Srimad Bhagavatam by Michikunda. 8:20. was kind of a detour in one sense, but, it's related, obviously. How did Pingala get to the position she was in? Some association. So, Dattatreya in her yard, or the sages of Videha, or other opportunities, something, so that knowledge and detachment can result in devotion to the personality of Godhead. So it was just a misfortune, or perhaps an ordinary course of life's misfortune. But realizing the futility, I know a few people who are like this. They're really clear. This my pursuit of happiness has been following the recommendation of the norms of society by this and that and the other thing, and the fact of the matter is there really isn't happiness there. So how does one get such clear realization? It doesn't just come once and then fades, but it stays with the person. And through that knowledge and detachment, then eagerness for the association of devotees and attachment to the personality of Godhead follows. It means somewhere along the line, association with devotees. So the application for us, we should be eager for association for such devotees, and we should become eager to, having received that association, extend the same opportunity to others. That's Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan. It's the life of devotion, the life of a devotee. You can call it Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, but it's the life of a devotee. He's like Prahlad, who's not a Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan devotee, but he's exhibiting that quality. He just wants to give. Doesn't want to be liberated alone. He has concern. When there's realization of the futility of material existence, you got to do something. So the foundation, one can say, the foundation of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement within the Bhagavatam is right here in this section. There are many sections. But it's the life of transcendental knowledge. The Sankirtan movement, the life of transcendental knowledge. See if there's some discussion. "22 minutes after 8.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, being given in devotee association, sometimes it becomes, the growth is stagnant.
Becomes what?
Stagnant, Maharaj.
What becomes stagnant?
The growth, the spiritual growth.
Spiritual growth becomes stagnant.
So
Because of or despite association?
Despite our
Despite, okay.
Yes. So what should I do for that, Maharaj?
There's lots of things you can do. It's not that when the sun rises in the morning, there's light in the sky, and there's light everywhere. So one can say, what should I do when the sun rises and I'm not seeing light? Well, it's light everywhere. So recognize what that light is and go towards the light. Perhaps, due to offense, the light has been blocked. So what do you do when there's offense You follow the bhajana kriya process to get on the other side of that, the result of that offense, the anartha in the heart. There's a what I'm saying here in essence is you as you've just done, you step back, you see, here I am, and I'm not making much progress. Even I have devotee association. Why is that? And because of some offense, now what should I do? And you bear responsibility for that blockage that's in the heart. And that, in other words, don't turn to something outside of yourself as being the cause of that. That's important. I take responsibility. And now let me purposefully move forward with moving towards Krishna. Make choices, free will choices to move forward towards Krishna. And take responsibility for with faith that this is the process to overcome this anartha. And we had this already now 2 times. You can do it again a third time. This indifference message. You heard that discussion, right? It's it influences the mind. There you are in contact with that which is spiritual. And somehow the mind has become spiritually indifferent. Or complacency. That was another term that was used yesterday. So recognizing, aside from anartha, it's just the soul has slackened in its intention, sankalpa, intention, to reach Krishna. And there you're in this indifferent space, moving naturally then towards the material space, becoming, interested in objects of enjoyment and developing patterns of trying to become an enjoyer of objects and so forth. The material energy in that neutral space, or lacking in submission space, material energy comes in immediately. So it's not just not making progress, it's you don't stand still. You're moving backwards or moving forwards. So recommit. This is the sankalpa. We had this discussion yesterday. Sachi Kumar was asking intelligence, mind, false ego. So energized by the soul's free will choice, realign the intelligence, mind, and the senses towards Krishna Bhakti. Open your heart to the mercy of the devotees. Recommit, realign. And however many times you have to do it, do you do it that many times? And then you'll feel again, some movement and some progress. Don't become complacent. Don't become indifferent to life's goal. Think back when you first began bhakti, and there was most likely, very dynamic enthusiasm. And that dynamic enthusiasm may have waned. Submission may have slackened. The indifference may have taken its toll. Because the initial reasons of the 4 reasons in Bhagavad Gita are now somewhat diminished, and so complacency, feeling comfortable, until you start to feel uncomfortable, feeling so-called comfortable. That's not what happiness is. So, hit the reset button. Okay?
In your lecture today, I what I understood is, even if a devotee, if we do not understand their exaltedness, and if we, that leads to offense. I mean, even,
I'm listening. Say the whole thing.
Yes, Maharaj. So in Sadhu Sangha too, if I do not understand what their position is, and because of my ignorance, is that an offense?
Yeah.
If I treat them like any other devotee, but I do not know how
Well, it's
exalted
not
they are.
exactly offense. You should, any devotee, you should see the bhakti. You know, it's material. It's in offense. It's material consciousness to see the covering and not the bhakti. And of course, there's degrees of how advanced bhakti may have come into someone's life. And there may be some fluctuation from time to time in the stage of unsteadiness. But the principle is respect should go to the soul, because that's spiritual, and bhakti, that's amongst souls, those who are carrying bhakti. Those who are recipients of mercy of Krishna is those who have bhakti. And that respect goes there. And then socially or culturally, respect goes proportionate to one's, another situation. That's a discrimination that we're asked. Approach the more advanced, make friends with peers, lend kindness and compassion to those less advanced devotees. We make distinctions as to the elevation or stages of the bhakti that another is in, and respect accordingly. But respect goes to bhakti in any case. Respect goes to the soul, and respect especially goes to souls carrying bhakti, because they're recipients of mercy. That's spiritualizing your conceptions of the devotees. It doesn't mean you can't make distinctions, or you're not supposed to. It's offensive to make distinctions between, the modes of nature and how they're influencing somebody or something like that. You do that, but that doesn't diminish respect going to bhakti. It just gives you an idea of how to best serve that person. It's using Prabhupada's phrase, animals can't accomplish this. And we could revert to animal life and say, oh, it's too difficult or something. But human life is meant for these kinds of considerations, to understand God and how to understand how to respect bhakti and the devotees, the souls carrying bhakti. So it's an opportunity. It's human exercise. Privilege.
Not understanding the exaltedness of the devotee, but I always want to serve them. Not really understanding the scriptural knowledge, or
Not understanding what?
with the knowledge, not understanding the exaltedness of the devotee.
Okay.
And
You just like to serve.
yeah, I like to serve.
Fine.
And do I be receptive to improve my knowledge and understand, and improve in spiritual life? Because that's I feel that's where I am.
You're just making a statement. You're not asking a question. Are you asking a question? What's the question?
How to make progress, or is that a right thing to do? That is where I am.
Is what the right thing to do? Serve according to your inclination to serve. Is that the right thing to do? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, and can I make a progress from there?
Yeah, sure. Sure. That's a stage of bhakti. You like to serve. That's the question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, whether you have inclination or not, there are things that are enjoined by Scripture to do. And hearing, which is, studying is part of hearing, is something we're enjoined to do. So you may not have inclination, you do anyway. Supposing somebody likes to read, they don't like to chant. You chant anyways. You follow?
Yeah.
And you may like more and get energy more from this or from that or something else. That's fine. But there should be, because it will enhance. You'll make progress if you don't read and don't carefully study, but you'll make further progress if you read and carefully study. Because that means intelligence will become elevated and purified. Right? Bhagavad Gita? One who studies the sacred conversation is worshiping me with their intelligence. And so intelligence becomes purified. The modes of nature become reduced and the intelligence instead becomes spiritualized, and that can give you the discerning capacity to understand how to serve the devotees better and how to give your life in devotion better through intelligence. So it's okay. You can make progress and make further progress by taking on this recommended activity. The goal is not to become a Gyani. The goal is to become clearer with an understanding of, the process of bhakti and the goal of bhakti and what is spiritual. Because otherwise, we don't have an idea. We don't have a proper idea.
Guru Maharaj, I had this question the other day when you were doing the Chinese class, but maybe it connects to today's class somewhat too.
Okay.
So when we are very new to Krishna consciousness, many of us are quite naive and we don't know who we are, and we don't often, not everyone, but often we don't have our sense of individuality and so on. And when we come in contact with devotees, there's a sense of awe and, everything is fresh and we naturally submissive and we try to align ourselves and follow everything, and there's great inspiration.
Yes.
In course of time, as we practice, one of the things that happens also is that one's internal, one's own individuality becomes more and more clear. One's, gifts, not gifts, but one becomes more aware of one's own inclinations, or devotionally also. And sometimes we see that whatever the association the person started with initially, as that person grows, they may not find the same kind of resonance in that association because of, their own individuality but they're struggling to align themselves to that association they started with. And sometimes that lack of resonance can come out in the form of a lack of regard in some way. Like the other person may perceive it as lack of regard, or the person who's going through it doesn't mean to disregard, but they're struggling in their own heart with that resonance aspect in some way. I just wanted to hear from you your thoughts on that.
That's a very interesting analysis. It's not, it's common, but my thoughts are, there's many, many other avenues that could follow here I was thinking as you were describing that, like changing clothes, trying this style, that style, the other style, one's looking for one's identity. And it's not, it's just a cosmetic change. It's not a really, this is my identity. I've seen that quite often. And, you know, that is to say, you've heard me use this expression, many people join the Hare Krishna movement in their mind. Mm-hmm. So, and they're trying, you know, that this is me, you know, that isn't me. And then they're inspired by somebody over there and they try that one on. And you know, it's like a little kid growing up and not really understanding who they are. And they're still trying to find out who they are. But they're adopting styles or mannerisms or things that are not really who they are because, you know, because they still don't know who they are and they're looking for it. So I see that's a thought where my thoughts were going as I was hearing. Now, back to this option where that may be one of the many things. And it is, you started off, one of the things that may happen is, so my first comment is there are many other things that may happen. But if that particular thing happens, two comments. One is that the sense of gratitude is to be preserved. And gratitude doesn't mean everything has to be the same, or using this word, the resonance has to be the same. But the sense of gratitude naturally is there. I mean, if one is spiritually progressing, gratitude will not fade. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, if there is not feeling so comfortable about the resonance factor, such a person need not feel I'm being ungrateful if I now going forward feel attraction over here or over there or somewhere else or association with which I resonate more at this time. It's not offensive, provided that the sense of gratitude doesn't fade. And if there is a sense of gratitude, how is it appropriately manifest? Well, it's appropriately manifest starting from the heart, and then it may come out in different ways depending upon the individual and the relationship. But provided that gratitude doesn't fade and become soured or just like vaporized, I've seen that happen. Mm. I've seen that happen, and I've had discussions with devotees, you know, when the relationship permits it, to say, you know, that's not wholesome. It's impersonal. You know, from the one who I just kind of disconnected with the person, so I received from and I don't feel anything. That's impersonal. No, it need not be that what existed 5 years ago is still as vibrant today as it was 5 years ago. But the sense of just, you know, the sense of gratitude just vaporizing, that's not wholesome. On the other hand, you know, that there are persons whom I find I particularly feel inspiration from and so forth, go for it. And there's no disrespect or disregard or offense, provided the first thing is there. No, not another comment is many people are not so thoughtful. They just kind of, I'm at the center, and they're not thinking about relationships and what's appropriate in culture or anything. They just rambunctiously go forward and do whatever is in the moment, and that's pretty common too. But if someone is thoughtful, and they may feel some conflict inside, back to the example, they may feel some conflict that the resonance isn't what it should be, what it used to be. Now, what do I do when that happens? All of that of what used to be doesn't have to be the same today. But there's gratitude, and I feel inspired to connect with this sangha or this person or something or other. And that's just fine. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Questions online. Snehavalli.
I was waiting.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, we heard that saintly persons' mercy do not get to the sinful or offensive people. How can we understand that? Because we have always previously heard that mercy is causeless, yadrichaya. It's the sins that prevents the mercy to act, but not otherwise.
Well, if we heard a range of things this morning, not just that one thing. And one of the main things we heard this morning is even persons who are degraded by bad conduct or sinful life, they may be recipients of mercy, of a Vaishnava. And we heard that the Vaishnava may be more cautious about somebody who is offensive, an offender. And that's true. Where, the Madhyama is meant to stay away from that fourth category of people who are offenders of the Lord or the Lord's devotees. We keep some respectful distance. And then we also heard there are persons who just transcend all of that. There are great souls that are, on another platform altogether, and they give their mercy even to offensive people, and they have the power to transform offensive people. But that's exceptional, and we're not exceptional souls. Yes. Now back to your question. The mercy is causeless, and also Madhyamas are recommended to be a little selective. Now, if you're Nityananda, you can go to Jagai and Madhai. And if you're not, you go to little Jagais and Madhais. And if you're not, you go to people who are pious. But, all three of those examples doesn't negate the statement, mercy is causeless. Krishna, we hear this in Madhurya Kandamini, Krishna gives power of attorney to his devotee. Specifically, he gives power of attorney to his Madhyama devotee. You can give me to whoever you like. And then the Madhyama is enjoined to discern who gets the mercy. Who should I stay away from and who should I approach? And weigh, degrees and so forth of giving mercy. In other words, you have discussions amongst devotees differently than you do amongst new people. And you discussions with persons that are not even acquainted, you discuss differently. You titrate a little bit the mercy that you extend, although mercy is causeless. You discriminate.
Next question is from Sucharita. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, in the world around there, there is a lot of planning and goal setting. Will setting goals in devotional practice also help in dealing with indifference and slackening?
Yes.
Next question is from Shrida Das. Guru Maharaj, as I understand from today's class, our acharyas very clearly say that the realization of Pingala is due to somehow by her past association. May I know if it is also appropriate to say that her realizations are due to the Lord as Chaitya Guru giving to her instructions within?
Sure.
Please correct me.
He's giving instructions all the time, and we just have the channel shut. So when the channel opens, that's due to having received some mercy. And now you can hear his channel.
So that, I think the question is that, so that channel opened because of
Yes.
the association?
Yeah.
Or is it just that the Chaitya Guru can directly give that?
Well, he
mercy?
can, and he's doing all the time, but the channel's shut. He doesn't turn it on. He's waiting for the devotee, and one says yes to the devotee.
From Girivardhari Prabhu, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Oh, sorry, this is Shriya, his wife. When we are eager to give Krishna consciousness to others, how to carefully distribute in spite of my impurities? Thank you.
How to carefully distribute in spite of impurity. Well, that requires intelligence. And if you don't have intelligence, you're not likely to discriminate properly. But intelligence comes from Krishna, and you can take guidance from those who have intelligence how to. And by practice, Krishna will help you receive intelligence how to. It's a fluid, dynamic process of discerning. That's a function of intelligence.
Amara, next. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, I have 3 questions if time permits. 1, there was a line in the reading, something to the effect that when there are sufficient reasons for misconceptions to be removed. Can you kindly elaborate on this point?
I don't remember the section, so I can't.
2, is Sadhu Sangha association with all the devotees who chant the holy name? How do we take their association in order to move closer to Krishna Bhakti?
Hear and chant together and try to avoid offenses. See, as the prior discussion, see that bhakti that's being carried within, and appreciate this soul has been a recipient of mercy from Krishna and the devotees of Krishna, through the devotees of Krishna. So have regard for that bhakti that's within. And avoid offenses. How to associate. Hear and chant with those persons regarding in that way.
Our 3rd question is, I feel settled when hearing, chanting, and reading. But when it is time to leave for work, it is very unsettling. Is it aversion and inability to see going to work as Krishna's service?
Yeah.
Sucharita. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, loss of interest in association can be due to offense.
Can be due to offense, right?
And sometimes also because not being able to align within a group.
Yes.
Guru Maharaj, how to differentiate between the two?
Intelligence. That's how you differentiate. You introspect, and Super Soul will give you the intelligence. If you're sincere, you'll be able to discern: is it this or is it that?
Next question is from Alicia Israni. Maharaj, we know Super Soul is always there in the heart. We know that Super Soul is always there in the heart, Supreme Lord Himself. So we always had association in a way. Why did we still remain Nitya Baddhas?
The covering of the soul is very, very, very thick. and we're attached. So we remain nitya-bhattas. That is to say, the process is gradual because we're holding on, we're attached. And what we're attached to is very thick. Maya is very strong. That's it?
No, Sundranand Prabhu. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. First is a comment. It's amazing to hear about the significance of devotee association to receive bhakti. Also, it is wonderful to hear how even if a pure devotee thinks about others, they receive mercy. Prahlad Maharaj's reference from today.
Yes.
He has a couple of questions. One, there was a reference in the commentary today to indirect association of a devotee in this life. If you so desire, could you please share some examples of this, Maharaj?
Well, indirect can be a number of things. It can be through somebody else. It can be inadvertent. Indirect, meaning agata sukriti. Let's just say you are, looking for directions for something, and you stop a passerby and say, which way is the place I need to get to? And so it's they offer the directions how to get to the place you want to go to, and so it's inadvertent, it's indirect. It's association, but it's the beginning. It's a seed of devotional service. Indirect.
The second question is, I'm grateful for the mercy I received in my life from devotees. I'm appreciating Srila Prabhupada's books that we have, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm eager and inspired to share with others whatever little I understand, received, and realized according to my current capacity. I also find that sharing is benefiting myself also, while it helps others in some little way. From time to time, I get this doubt. Since my realization is limited, should I still share from that, or am I doing disservice to the audience?
Or am I what?
Doing disservice to the audience.
As long as you're not acting from the platform of false ego. I mean, Prabhupada engaged us in preaching activities from the get-go. He, from the get-go, we're engaged in Majjhima Adhikari activities, even the most neophyte persons. Let's say book distribution or going on Harinam or speaking to somebody about something. We're engaged in sharing. So is there something wrong with that? Are you doing something detrimental because you're not a pure devotee yet? Prabhupada didn't engage us in a mistaken way. It's part of our purification. So see it as purification. You're just trying to become a better instrument of your spiritual master and of Prabhupada and Krishna, and just move in that direction. Now, how many of us are thinking like that all the time when we're sharing? Probably not so much of the time. Still, because the message is the main responsibility is we don't invent things. We just repeat what we've understood to our capacity. That's not detrimental. That's beneficial for you and for them.
And Sucharita just has a comment. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, I always wondered why we say Prahlad Maharaj ki jai after saying Vignanashak Narsimha Bhagavan ki jai. Today's class helped me to get answer to that.
Okay. Benefiting the persons who say and the persons who hear. And this is from yesterday. This is a nice slide from yesterday. You see the anatomy of somebody over there on the left, and there's the text on the right, which says, eventually the body must disintegrate, and therefore there is certainly no one as unfortunate as one who has dedicated himself heart and soul to this flimsy body which is filled with unpleasant elements. And we'll continue tomorrow because we just covered verse 34, and then tomorrow we'll start with 35, and there's some really nice illustrations for 35. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.